Hello again, Homobite. Amandesi has joined. Mo Bass. Poor Collective. Hello, how are you? We are waiting for Mr. Homobite. You're going to take your test and while listening along. You are a true fan. You really are. Do not fail. We're waiting for Cory to join us. Yeah, that's what I thought. Mo Bass. Like, more bass? Mo Bass. That's what I thought. That's me. That's my street talk. That's how terrible I am. Trying to sound very hip I am. Probably failing miserably. That's okay. I know my limitations. I know my limitations very well. If ever I was a street sounding, it has long passed. Cory has requested, and there he is. We're gonna Cory Stewart right now, as the gentleman joins us all the way from lovely Toronto, Ontario.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you? I just want to put a filter on because guess what? I don't like to live in a world without filters.
Oh
So
my God.
let's make this happen. Look at
I
how
don't
much
even know
more
how to
beautiful.
do that. I don't even know how to put a filter on.
There's a little thing in the bottom right here that
Oh,
is
it
a
has
smiley
this.
face.
Yeah.
I'm
I don't.
sorry. It's part of my brand,
It's,
Kenney.
you know what? Hey, it's good. My part of my brand is to just be a disaster. So
I mean, that's also part of my brand, but I mean, only on Twitter. So how are you?
I'm good.
I feel like I'm shouting. Sorry, I've got to calm down because what happens is when I get on these lives, I will think that you can't hear me adequately. And then I realize that the iPhone speakers are actually adequately picking up my voice very, very effectively.
I do the exact same thing. Um, I don't know why. Anytime you call me and we're on, it's the funniest thing for anybody who's watching. So like, it'll be like 1 o'clock in the morning where I'm at, midnight for Cory. Probably both of us have had some wine,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
we'll be texting back and forth, and then all of a sudden he's like, this is too much to text, and then he'll just call me.
Yeah.
But every time you call me, it's I'll have the phone like this, but I'm still kind of yelling at it, and I'll have the speaker on, and I don't know why. I think that you know, it's not two cans and a string that
Which is
that
what
we're
we're
using.
accustomed to normally. So I think it's just, yeah, no, it's pretty hilarious. I mean, if our conversations got leaked either through text or phone, I feel like we'd have some slaining to do.
Oh yeah, we'd have a little bit. Um, if you hear anything that sounds like an explosion, please
It's
ignore
our
it.
voices.
We're having thunder and crap like that here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really rainy today. It's hot, so it's humid, but it's not so hot that it's like sweltery, but it's not cold. It's real weird. But we have a lot of rain going on. But other than that, today's been good. It's been a busy day.
I
Um,
have my air conditioning on today because it's so sweltering here, which always results in me getting a hacking cough because I just for some reason can't handle air conditioning. Last year when I was performing all summer long, I had to live without air conditioning because it would affect the dryness of my throat. So the great news is I can have air conditioning this year because I'm not performing anywhere. So it's actually fantastic. But I do have a hacking cough and every day wake up thinking I have COVID. But that's something for another day.
that's just us.
Yeah.
Hey, so congratulations, released
Thanks.
today.
Thank you.
Now I like the song, and I told you that moons ago. That I really like the song. I really like it because for a number of different reasons. I think the song is. I think it's really honest, and I think that it's not that you write songs that aren't honest. It's just that I
Thanks.
think that. I think that this one's super honest, and I think
Mhm.
that it comes from a little bit of a different place. For you, I mean, you tell
Yeah.
me, of course.
Yeah. I mean, this song, I thought that I had written it in 2012, but I actually wrote it in 2007. Um,
Wow.
so I wrote it and I didn't start releasing music, as you know, until 2018. So it's been sitting for a while. When I first sent it to my producer, Gavin Bradley, he was like, this is awesome. And I was like, okay, well, great. I mean, like, the thing is, you lose perspective because you write millions of songs as an artist, and I luckily have Gavin to throw stuff at and be like, is this good, is this good, is this good, and use him as my barometer. I use you as my barometer too sometimes. And sometimes send you shit before it's even ready to be listened to, but I'm like, whatever. But when it comes down to it, it's very personal, it's very raw. Surprisingly, today when I put it up, a lot of people that I've known from like high school and even elementary school have seen the music video which came out today, and just reached out and been like, Cory, this is the best song I've ever heard from you. Like, I connect to it so much. And they said, I don't know if it's pandemic or if it's our history, but it just spoke to me. And I'm thankful for that, because I always kind of walk into these releases with a bit of trepidation, because I've been burned so many times before, and not by people, but by myself, in terms of like building up all of this anticipation and then ultimately crying or rocking back and forth in a corner by the end of the day because it didn't go the way that I wanted. So, you know, it's good. I'm really pleased with how it's being received.
I do. I said that to you again. I don't know when you sent it to me originally, and I think I did. I texted back. It's like, I think this is like one of the best songs that you've ever put out.
Oh God.
I do, because it comes from a different place, and I think that it's genuine. There's a lot of emotion attached to it and a lot of, like, you know, baggage. But what's great about it is that I think it's relatable, right? It's completely relatable.
Right.
And especially the words. And I think the words in the song are so relatable. But I mean, I like where it gets to the end of it. And I think that it's just, you weren't even gonna, like, I was like, do you want to do something for the release of this? And you're like, I wasn't even thinking about anything. I didn't even know if I was going to do anything or with it or whatnot. And I was like, oh my God, you got to. Because, and I think it's one of those songs where it's kind of like, this is something you just wanted to do for yourself, almost, in a way.
Yeah, I think this song in general is, more than anything, sort of a note to myself. In a lot of ways, some of the lyrics are things that I need to hear sometimes and need to consult within myself. I mean, it sounds stupid to say, but ultimately I'm not a Cory Stewart fan. So, like, in terms of the music itself, I find myself a lot of times, there's some songs that I really like love, but I'll find myself treating my own work as sort of a slow burn, where like maybe 6 months down the line I'll be like, you know what, that was actually really good, but I don't ever come out with me thinking like, wow, this is really great. It's not something that, which is a sickness, I know, but it's still like, it's just, it's what I go through. And with Unhappy, you changed my mind in terms of promotion a little bit. I did end up putting together a press release. Yeah, I mean, it's also, you go through all of this work of promoting something and like putting all of this effort into it, and it's actually the biggest pain in the ass, doing the promotion itself. Not talking with you, I love talking with you anytime, but I mean, just in general, putting all of that effort in, when really all you want to do is just make the music and release it and hope that it resonates with someone. And that's really, you know, the thing. Oh, Adrian Ross knows Gavin. That's cool.
Yeah.
Gavin's the best. He's like, I would not be able to make music or do anything musically without him, because he's just been really, more than anything, a friend and a mentor through all of it. So
I think Adrian's in Toronto.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I just really think that I think it's a great song. I love the melody to it, and I just like the words behind it. I like the message behind it, and I think that, you know, it's pretty honest. And I mean, yeah, biased for sure.
Yeah, you're like my mom by this point. You're like, it's the same sort of thing. I can send you anything and be like, great work, sweetie.
But no, it's true. It's kind of like, I am biased in the sense that, you know, I am a fan, and, you know, you're a friend, and that kind of thing. But at the same time, I mean, I won't blow smoke up your ass or anything like that.
No,
It's
of course.
It's a song that I think that is so, it's referential, and it will resonate with a lot of people. And I think that you're already seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, to say I'm shocked is not an exaggeration, because it's just like you just never know what's gonna happen. I mean, when I released "Do You," which you'll remember, I was so in love with that song, so excited about it, and no one connected to it. And I was just like, oh well. I mean, it did go on Billboard, so I'm like thankful for that, and that's thanks to John Ellie and how lovely he is. But ultimately, like, the streams are really low on it, and it's like that. I think there was sort of a point during the release of that song where I was like, okay, what are you doing this for? And my success metric has changed in terms of how I operate myself now. It really comes down to, what do I want the outcome to be, not how do I want other people to receive it. And I think that's really something that I've been battling with for the first part of my music career. And now I'm finally like, you know what? If these things happen that make me happy, and take it internally rather than worrying about what the external is going to be, it has been sort of a release for me, and almost easier to go through these days, because a release day is kind of like taking a drug. I mean, you get that high of people like listening to your music and getting really like, they hype it up for you, they put posts on Instagram, whatever else, and it's really exciting. And then by the end of the day, it starts to dwindle, and it's as though the drug is sort of wearing off. And I think the challenge for a lot of artists is figuring out how to level that out and not be reliant on those moments, because it becomes very devastating at the end of the day when you don't have that attention, because I'm an attention seeker. So yeah.
But I also think too, it's kind of like you only started releasing music in 2018. So if you look at, and and to use maybe Zach Benson as an example, because Zach, I think he's in his early 20s, early to mid 20s, but has been releasing music for a bit. So
am I with this filter, by the way. Anyway, continue.
But for yourself, you start releasing music after a big life experience period of time.
In the winter of my life.
In the winter of your life. No, but you know what I mean? It's kind of like you're already in that phase where we have started learning how horribly to critique ourselves.
Yeah.
And how other people judge us. And, when you release when you're younger, it's probably because it's like just so much fun and you're throwing things out and whatnot. You're not really caring about it as much because you haven't been beat down by other things maybe as much yet. And not to generalize for anybody, but
no,
when you release later, probably you're the criticalness that that you put on yourself is probably that much more.
Well, some might say that when you get into your 30s, you become more confident and believe in yourself more. I haven't found that. So, I mean, it's I think it's a journey for everyone. But yeah, for me also, knowing that I was starting my music career a little later. I mean, when I say starting, I don't mean that I had just started making music. Music has been in my life since I was a kid. Like, I have always worked with music in one way or another. But in the time that I released it, I was kind of like, I wanted to be genuinely good, and I wanted to be a reflection of my training and everything that I've gone through to get to this point. And I don't want to just release willy-nilly. So, and I do have to thank Simone Denny for that too. I'm a name dropper now. Simone, who's from a band called Love Inc., very famously in Canada. She had received some of the music that I was making, and she advised me to really go and meet up with the producer. She introduced me to Gavin Bradley, and from there, that's when this whole thing started. So if I hadn't done that, I was planning on releasing the music, but I was probably just gonna do it at home, and like, it wouldn't have been at the quality it is because of Gavin. So
and yeah, I to kind of go back to what you were saying, you have been singing because you are trained. And I guess it's not that you started your music career, you started your, I guess, commercial
Recording career.
recording career.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you were stage
Yes.
for a long time. And I mean, you can hear, and that's another thing about Unhappy as a single, is that I can hear and I said this to you before too as well, is you can hear how, oh, you know, it's kind of like you're creaking open the door on how much power you actually have vocally. That you can get that sense of it. But I mean, being a stage performer too, projecting throughout an entire theater with sometimes mic, sometimes not, you know, your whole dimension of vocals is very, very different. And most times people don't get a chance to hear that on a recording because it's not how you use your voice on a recording, right? But I can hear it in the song a bit where you kind of could go boom.
The biggest struggle I have right now is I can't go into a recording studio and I have all of this content. I've been doing collaborations with a bunch of people, some that you're aware of, but we're not going to say who they are yet. And my brother called me in the middle of my live. That's how interested he is in what I'm doing. He knows nothing about me going live today. Anyway, so what was I saying? I can't go into the studio because Gavin obviously is concerned about COVID, as am I, and we don't want to put ourselves at risk. So I've been trying to set up my own sort of rigmarole here at home. And the mic that I have, whenever I sing into it, I blow it out. And no matter how much the volume, I can turn it down and like try and record at a lower level, it still distorts because I'm a loud singer. I'm a loud talker. Yeah. I'm a loud singer. I'm a loud person, Kenney. And I'm seeking treatment. So we'll see what happens.
But that is a stage thing. Like, I mean, I'm so familiar with that. This is so funny. Like, I can't get on here at any point. They want nothing to do with me at any given time.
Until you're live.
Until I'm on here, and then they're just like doing like catapults in the background.
My little booger is laying down on the couch right now, and it's the first time that he's actually been quiet all day. So I really appreciate that. He's a show dog. What can I say?
But being a theater kid myself and growing up and being in theater, and you know, when you're a theater kid and when you spend so much time in there, you're always projecting. It's a kind of a natural thing. I don't know if I've seen a lot of people come into a theater shy and leave a monster. I've seen that happen. But rarely, you know, do you spend so much time in the theater because you have to, you get used to it. And we've talked about this, and I've talked with a few artists about this who are theater folks as well. Just that dynamic of switching up, right, from recording to stage, and when you're in stage so much that when you go back into the recording, it's always an adjustment.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, and we won't mention any names. And that you are collaborating, which is, you know, I mean, it's the golden nugget of COVID in this sense, where artists have really kind of extended themselves to other artists, and have, you know, really been making connections and stuff. And there's some really interesting things coming along. You've already had a few, just recently with Grant Brett.
Yeah.
And re-recorded his song with him. And that was really, really interesting to hear the different type, like both of you have very different styles and very different voices, right? And to have you on that track was really interesting. It really changed that song. So it just kind of goes to show that these collaborations are more than just kind of like, oh, let's get together, and, you know, and it shows how the impression on a song can change it so much.
Well, I mean, I was honored that Grant asked me to be a part of his song. I mean, I did really enjoy the song the first time I heard it. I thought it was moody. I also thought it was something that I'd never really done before in terms of the way that it sounds. It's just not typically what I make in terms of music is like more of a sexy thing. I gave up on sex appeal a long time ago. So I think that, you know, it was kind of cool to jump into that and really explore that whole sound. And it's something that, you know, I might try and do more in the future. And in terms of the future collabs that are coming, I think with all of this, I found the courage to really reach out to certain people and be like, hey, we should work together. And it's actually been awesome to just go online and connect with these people over Zoom or FaceTime or whatever, and just start writing together and collaborating together. It would have never, I can guarantee you, ever happened if we hadn't had this happen in the world. I mean, it's not, I don't want to say it's a silver lining because that's so gross, but I mean, it's like one of those things where
it's a happy accident.
Yeah, totally.
It's just one of those things where it's I think because before everybody got into lockdown, everybody was so focused on what was in front of them and out there, and then suddenly when we're in lockdown, what's in front of you is the world, but it's the world in a phone or on your laptop. And what else do you have to do when, especially if you're by yourself? But you still want connection. You still want to know what's going out there. You still want to put your own career out there. You don't want it to go on hold. You're struggling to make sense of how things are going to shift and change and whatnot, especially with like the loss of stages and Pride and just the regular day-to-day artist kind of like, promotion and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So then suddenly you're kind of like, well, okay, I got some extra time. Let's see what's happening out there. And then it just kind of, it was really interesting to watch from a non-artist perspective. Because that's what I was after. I was after to see some of these collaborations happen. But then when the first one I don't even know who the first one was, but like, we'll say once they kind of started, you start to see more of them.
Yeah.
It really started to snowball that now it's not even a thought. And you listen to, and go back to Zach Benson for a second. Zach and Gregory Dillon had just put out Mischief.
Love Mischief. So
Love
good.
it too.
So
and
good.
those two guys.
So cute too.
It is like and I told him, I said, I really want a full kind of video. I have this idea of like this adventure for the two of them to kind of go on.
The two of them robbing banks and shit like that.
Something,
like,
yeah.
Yeah.
But like, that's a case of where anybody who came across it probably thought that they knew each other for a really long time. And they only kind of met in November.
Oh, I didn't even know that actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they just kind of met in November and have become really great friends since. But it's one of those things, and they both are in New York City, right?
Yeah.
Not that New York is kind of like, a small town or anything like that. New York's big. But even Kisos is there, and now they didn't know one another.
Yeah.
And now they all know one another.
Well, and that's, I mean, for me personally, that's your doing with me meeting a lot of these people, specifically because you'll introduce me to artists. And then somehow the conversations will start between us. What I really love is just like discovering all of these people through your site, and then, also your podcast, hearing these people's personalities. And I think there's certain artists that you form a kinship with because you hear their background stories, you hear what they've done and what their opinions are on things. And Kisos is one of those people who, like, I absolutely adore. I hate that I can't go visit him right now, because that's something I would love to do, is just hop down to New York and gallivant together in the city. But I mean, it'll happen one day.
One day it'll all be, people will be able to connect again, like physically, and go see people and migrate. But it's pretty interesting when, and and to kind of talk about Kisos, because you were on Queer and Teen with Kisos, and things like that kind of growing out of some of these connections is super cool. And then to be able to kind of just jump on here and just yak away and like have people actually interested to want to like stop by and listen and things like that.
Well, sorry, I just want to say, quarantine, one thing that really became apparent is that a lot of the artists in this community are desperate to be a part of a community. And some of that outlet, or like the platform, wasn't available. And I think quarantine is really checking that box in terms of allowing people to connect in an authentic way, but also live while it's happening. Kisos and I have something in store for the premiere of Quarantine in August 9th. It's coming back. So I'm super excited for that. I I can't say what it is because I don't know that he'd be happy if I did, but something's coming.
Well, oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
And you know, I can't even remember what I was going to say, but let's go back to you for a sec. Focusing on you. It's Unhappy is out. Now you're going to be part of whatever's happening with Kisos on August 9th. I know of at least one or two collabs that you're kind of working on. What's going to come, and when should we have our eyes peeled for more from you?
God, that's a loaded question, and thank you so much. I should have this prepared.
That's what I do.
I think the one thing that's going to happen this year, and I've said it 2 years in a row now, it's happening, is I am going to release my album this year. The album itself will have a lot of the material that's already been released, along with a couple new tracks. But the really cool thing about the album is it is filled with interstitials that provide context to the songs that follow them. So when you listen through as a succinct piece of work, sounds so pretentious, but you know what I mean, you will hear points in my life that I've recorded through my iPhone that are put to an arrangement that introduce the context of the song before the song plays. So hopefully it'll tell a full story about a chapter in my life, and perhaps even give some perspective to people on maybe a song that isn't as clear as it could be based on having that interstitial come in. So
it's kind of like I said to an artist recently who also is a writer, like writes short stories and books. I was like, have you ever thought about using some of what you wrote and reading pieces like from your book in between songs
yeah,
that connect to the song? And they were like, oh my God, I didn't think anybody would want to listen to that. And I was just like, no, I think that's a really interesting way of setting up a song.
totally.
You know, if you're thinking live and you stop and you finish a song and you're kind of like, this next song is about blah blah blah. Well,
Oh,
I mean,
that's cheesy, but
it's not
yeah.
that. It's about the fact that there are pieces and moments and stories. Jan Arden is fantastic with it, right?
Yeah.
She'll tell an entire story about how she got to like unhappy or not unloved, and
She also released Unhappy. I just have a cover coming out today.
but she'll do that on stage, and it'll be a hysterical story. She'll tell it, and it's so funny when she tells, and then she launches into this sad song.
Yeah.
But that's who she is as an artist, right? Like it's just really interesting, her live shows. And I think she's done a bit of it recording, but I think that what you're talking about is a really neat way of this of keeping the storytelling aspect of music alive without having to be a storyteller per se.
Well, yeah, I think it's not like breaking the fourth wall. It's more of like sitting on or sitting in on a conversation or a conversation with myself. So I'm not addressing the audience when I make these interstitials. They're going to be very like, you're a fly on the wall.
Right.
And the inspiration for that was actually from, do you remember the Velvet Rope album from Janet Jackson?
Yeah.
So like she had interstitials throughout that album, and it just really inspired me. Hi, Chris. Chrissy, Miss Vocab is here. So yeah, that really inspired me, and that's what I really wanted to do with the album, is sort of mimic that feeling. And that's like one of my favorite Janet albums. So
well, yeah, that album, like, yeah, you're 100% right. Like that with Velvet Rope, and that was like a piece that was less pop. I mean, it was pop, yes, but she was, starting to kind of like, as an artist, grow into a very different artist herself with that album. And she had so much to say with it that it was never ever going to be encapsulated with just the music.
exactly.
And that's what those pieces did. And those pieces led so much context as to why that album became what it was and how it kind of got there.
That song, is it Love Again? I can't remember the title
Yeah.
of it now. Is it or Together Again? Maybe is what it's called actually. Together Again, maybe.
Is it the slow one?
No, it's Everywhere I Go.
That's Together Again.
Yeah. So, that song is about one of her best friends who died of AIDS. And it's a song to him as he's in heaven and telling him that she's going to see him again soon. And I just thought that was so beautiful. And I only found that out recently because apparently I don't read. So
Yeah. Read, what is that?
exactly. It's 2020. Who reads?
But I think that's interesting, and I'll be interested to hear that. I sitting with and chatting with Caden Gray, who goes by Sob Sister. The album that Caden has is incredible, and it does have moments like that, or sounds. He's used sounds, natural sounds, to kind of set things up, and I think that sometimes, you know, again, happy accidents, where you want the album out, and now probably you're doing more with it than maybe you would have before, because you've had the time to think about it, and you've had to sit on it some more. So,
well, interstitials were always part of the plan, to be honest, because I'm theatrical and I just want to be extra in every move that I make. But I think the issue with releasing it was, I had prepared a bunch of material. Like, I have a song that will never be heard by the public. Maybe it will one day, but it's called Like Madonna. And it's about like how growing up, I always wanted to be like Madonna. And it's just so cheesy, which maybe I'll change my mind on that one day. But like, I had all these songs prepared that I was going to put on the album. And then after reflecting, because sometimes you sit on things for a few months, you're kind of like, actually, no, this is not who I am anymore. So that has definitely stalled the progress. But now I have a full track listing. It's ready to go. So we just have to get it out there.
Cool. When do you think you're going to drop it? Listen, I'm going to ask the questions.
Fall, winter 2020. And it's not like
gun to your head.
I'm not being like, you know me, I would be transparent about when I just haven't decided, to be honest.
Yeah.
And, a little insider info, as an artist in Canada, there is a time period from, it's like, I think November something, where the cutoff for the Junos is for Juno Awards. And I mean, I'm just going to be real. So the Junos, you can apply for the 2021 Junos if you release before like November something.
Yeah.
And then you can apply for the 2022 if you release after November something. So I haven't decided whether or not I want to extend the length of my album by putting it out a little later or not. I haven't made up my mind. So
yeah. And I mean, and that's something too that a lot of people don't realize, is that when it comes to things like that, it's in the artist's hands. Like, the Junos don't kind of sit there and say, okay, let's go out and gather all the music so we can listen to it. Like, they're not going to do that. You have to put yourself forward. And if you've created a body of work, I mean, why wouldn't you? You know, I mean, will they consider it? Who knows? Maybe they would. And you definitely have, when it comes to things like Poison, and Do You, like, but there's definite moments on the releases that you've had that I'm sure could become, you know, considered and in contention for things. They could find themselves there. Who knows, right?
You know, who knows? And it's also just like, it costs a lot of money to make an album. I'm going to make sure that I'm firing off with all cylinders in terms of like getting any kind of recognition, or, you know, whatever is possible in terms of the album itself. Like, I just want to make sure that I'm doing it the right service. And so I just haven't decided what that service is yet.
I think that I think there's a lot of it's an interesting balancing act. So in one side, and you're PR savvy, because I mean, you've been working in PR for a while, so you know a lot of things that maybe a lot of artists wouldn't necessarily know. The Grammys are the exact same thing, right?
Yeah.
People
you nominate
get angry.
Yourself, by the way. The jig is up. You nominate yourself.
People get angry that an album's not released or not considered for a Grammy. It's like, I can't believe this album is so good, and you know, they're not even giving it any attention. It's kind of like, did you check to see if that artist actually even wanted consideration? Because they may not have put themselves forward. But some artists don't know that, and like you do know that, because you again, in PR and whatnot, you come along those types of things. But in one sense, you know, you do have to back yourself as an artist. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with saying, I want to give myself every possible opportunity to be considered or whatnot. There's nothing wrong with that. the other side of it is, you know, artists who think that they would never ever be considered. It's like, it doesn't matter if you have the ability to kind of do it, back yourself and give yourself the opportunity, and put yourself out there in those kinds of considerations. So
Hi Hayden. Hi Eman.
hey Hayden.
So yeah, I think that the onus is on us to promote ourselves, particularly in the indie scene. It's just important not to get too worked up in the recognition and in the potential, because it could be nothing. And that's a lesson I teach myself every day, because I can drive myself absolutely nuts.
So Francis Michaud is in here too, and he's from Montreal, and he's a French Canadian artist. So there's lots of Canadians kind of floating in through here. Hayden's here, you're here
today. I love it.
But it is. I think that sometimes people forget that, you know, it's okay to back yourself.
Yeah,
it's okay. And Amon's here. There's lots of Canadians in here, but it's okay to back yourself, and it doesn't mean that you think you're the greatest thing or that your album's the greatest. It's just that you put a lot of work into it, you put your heart and your soul into it. You know, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of energy, and it's a lot of money. A lot of the times that you've, you know, had to kind of push into this, there is absolutely nothing wrong with backing yourself and putting it forward into contention for something that, you know, could potentially be recognized and recognized by a body of people who, you know.
Yeah, I don't think it's rooted necessarily in narcissism, although sometimes I'm the first to admit that I can be a raving narcissist. But and other times absolutely loathe myself. So it's a good balance. But here's the thing. It's not always rooted in narcissism. It's rooted in the fact that you want people to be exposed to the work that you've done. And you want to share that work and hopefully connect with people, because I think that's ultimately what we're trying to do as musicians, is just like make those connections and feel that we're making some sort of difference. I mean, we're not out saving lives here, but hopefully some of the music that we're making is helping people take comfort or feel like they're being seen or heard or recognized in whatever way we can possibly.
But I would say that in some instances, sometimes, you know, it is saving lives. You know, and I think about, you know, isolation, and I think about somebody who is, you know, in rural, wherever, say in Canada, a very rural spot, who is, you know, a queer kid, whether it's, you know, gay, bi, could be trans, whatever, and they don't get exposure regularly to artists from the queer community, because let's just be honest, unless you're one of the upper echelon who happen to manage to get out there, you're not promoted. Like, I mean, you've talked about this ad nauseum, but you know, then that kid happens to come across you or whoever, right? A Hayden, an Almond, and here's the words, and here's the song, and in there, take something away to know that that person kind of made it through, and that person's out there making music and stuff. That could be potentially life-changing to somebody who's in such a severe isolation here. So that's all.
Well, yeah, I agree.
Don't downplay yourself. You may not be cutting into a body with a scalpel, but your words may be cutting into the soul and healing.
One of my best talents is downplaying myself, so please don't take that away from me. No, I think when you say that, I'm reminded, in 2018, I went back to my hometown of like 30,000 people, and they were having like their second or third Pride. And I was shocked, because at the time when I grew up there, people would yell faggot out of their windows while they're driving by and throw like gasoline at me and my friends, and like cigarettes and all sorts of bullshit. And now there's a Pride there, and this is going to be a bit of a downer, but at the time of that Pride, a gay kid had just committed suicide in Woodstock, and they had instituted an award that they were giving out to someone who was a crusader in the community, to recognize, and it was named in this little boy's honor, which was really amazing. And they gave it to someone in the community who was starting a LGBTQ ally group so that people could start to be more aware and understand the dangers of growing up in a community where you're not feeling accepted. So it was really touching to see. And at the time I had just released My Gay Heart, one of my songs from my first EP, and to sing that and then have that award been given out right afterwards, it was like just such a my heart. So
that's a powerful moment.
It was. Like, I don't think I've ever told anyone that before, but yeah.
That's a real powerful moment when you think of that. And I think that for most of us too, and I mean, we fall into that category of being human, whatever, where we can still remember the like, you know, the crap, and you can actually see the changes that have kind of come along. But when we go back to those crap ground zeros, it's a push and pull, it's a tug. So it's nice to be able to go back to them with something good, with something positive that, you know, that is associated with it. Because a lot of the times we like run the heck away and we're like, see ya, you know, bye Felicia, and we're the frick out.
I saw Keith says his comment, heavy but powerful, just like me. Also, hi Zach Benson.
Hey Zach. But I think that's one for your memoirs.
Yeah, for all three people who are interested in reading it. Can't wait.
I think by the time all is said and done, people will be lining up for that book.
I'm sure they will be too, Kenny.
Especially with the way that like the names that you're dropping. You've already did Simone, so
there's more. I've got a full pocket full of names. I just haven't dropped them all today yet.
For those who are watching this afterwards and currently, if you don't know who Simone Denny is and who Love Inc. is, please go check out that woman, because she still sings and she's phenomenal.
Yeah,
she's a Canadian treasure.
She has an album called the Stereo Dynamite Sessions. It's really, really great. But she also was part of Love Inc. There is a album that they released, I believe, in like the late 90s. And the best song on that album, in my opinion, is called Broken Bones. I play it all the time. It's one of the best. And
it's
the fact
go-to for me.
The fact that I know her and have her on my cell phone, humble brag, is still like every day that I get a message from her or talk to her, I'm like, okay, so this is a dream, right? So it's just unusual, but amazing.
Yeah, no, Broken Bones is the big go-to for me.
Yeah.
So what's the state of affairs on your, so Almond's on here and you're on here. And I know Francis is on here and from Montreal. So we're talking like the other side of Canada from where I'm at. We're in a wonderful Atlantic bubble right now where we get to move, like things are moving around and we all feel really, really good and whatnot. We're doing our mask thing and stuff like that. But we got kind of like the all clear on the Atlantic region to move around. How are things out for you folks?
Squirting phones. So I'm a bit of a lunatic when it comes to all of this. Like, I rarely have left my house. I'm extremely weary, I don't know how to say it properly, but I'm not anxious to hang out with people. I will. Sorry, my battery is getting low.
No problem.
So I will not be caught dead on a patio right now. I will not be caught dead in an indoor environment. When I go to get my groceries, I treat it like I'm about to rob a bank. Like, I'm in and out like a Navy SEAL. Like, it's very, very fast. It's still kind of tense here, and I think Ontario's numbers are rising. I hate myself for not, like, I wish that I didn't talk about COVID every day, but I do. But yeah, numbers are rising, so it's a bit terrifying, but you know, I'm just living in my little bubble with my little dog, and things are going quite swimmingly. So
what, so ear to the ground and being, you know, out there and listening to things. You have a release out. There's a bunch of other releases that are out and some that are coming and some that have just come out. What's been on your radar? What are you getting jazzed by?
What am I getting into? Well, Kisos's EP, obviously I love.
Yeah.
Everyone loves Perks and I love Perks too, but I also like Happily Ever After is just like one of those songs that continues to get stuck in my head. The other one, obviously Zach's with Gregory that we talked about earlier. Velvet Code, who you're speaking with tomorrow,
Yeah.
I'm super excited about. He's a PR client of mine, and he has a release coming out tomorrow called Teenage Dreamer that I'm super pumped for him about. And I'm trying to think, like, there's just so much good music coming out right now. It's hard to, like, I don't know how you do it.
There's a ton. I will say there's a ton. I you know, it's hard to keep track of everything. Oh, Velvet Code's right in here.
Oh, hi, Velvet.
It is hard to keep track of things, especially it would be one thing if it was Canada and I'm like on the hunt all the time
Oh
for
my
our
God.
Canadian artists.
But you're worldwide. You're global.
Well, I mean, yes, in fact I am. But like to kind of, and I think it's important to be able to kind of like get a good perspective of what's happening kind of around the world, because I think everybody's in the same kind of situation.
Totally.
But it's interesting because when I first started, I was just like, where are the artists? Why am I not seeing them? And now I'm kind of like, okay, folks, like it's okay to breathe. Like there's so much.
There's
like
so much.
There's so much. And at first I thought it was going to be, okay, there's going to be like 3 and there's going to be 3 good ones and the rest is all going to be, no, exactly. Because like the seriousness of the artists
and
in this
good
community.
Quality stuff too. It's not like it's just
amazing.
You know, Jimmy in his basement. No offense to Jimmy, but like it's really great, the stuff that's coming out.
Kenney said, "Slow down, stinkies."
What is that?
I
All
don't.
Right.
But it is there's a ton, and I don't see it slowing down, because I think right now what has happened for a lot of these artists, and you can chime in on this, is the fact that the shackles have been kind of taken off, and the barn doors have kind of been opened, and that whole avalanche has been sitting and waiting for so long.
Yeah.
And now all at once, these artists are getting a taste and getting a feel that, no, we have a place here and we have a position here and we're not going to wait. And that's exciting.
I don't know if it's just because I wasn't exposed as much as I am now, but I feel like the LGBTQ plus music scene in the past 2 years has crescendoed in such a way that I didn't anticipate happening. I mean, I just feel that so many amazing artists are emerging and flourishing and growing and receiving support. And I think too, what's really encouraging to see is the support is no longer reliant on mainstream media. It's reliant on the communities that are being built. Yeah. And I think that's really encouraging to see too, because ultimately it's up to us to raise each other up and to continue to help each other build and escalate. Gone are the days of waiting for MTV to show your video. It's now your friends helping you, and I think that's awesome.
Same here, and I think that if anyone's like, and that's why I said at the beginning of this of COVID, that if anybody was going to flourish during it, it was going to be the independent artist, but especially from understanding community. Yeah. Because you can be an independent artist but not really get the whole community thing. But because this is a community that has artists in it, rather than being artists with a community, because of that, I think that that's why they're the artists from this community are doing so well. It's because they get it. Yeah, and they get that, they understand the strength in community.
Yeah, absolutely, and that. The gentleman that just said amen has taught me a lot about community. So, I mean, when it comes down to it, I think that's probably very important. Kisos is what I'm referring to. But yeah. And, Quarantine, August 11th, or August 9th. Jesus, what am I even saying? August 9th, Quarantine returns.
Listen, this will kick us off very, very soon. Because you can only be on here for, I think it's an hour or just 55 minutes.
I can take a hint, Kenney. I get it.
Well, no, but I also don't want to cut you off midstream.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, that's all right. You'll call me later on anyway. What do you got going on? What's coming up next?
Quarantine, August 9th.
August 9th.
Honestly,
Which
I don't have any future releases other than the album in my head yet, unless something gets recorded and I'm able to get back into the professional studio. Yeah, there may be there may be an alternative Unhappy video coming your way that I filmed before I found this footage for the one that was released today. So if that happens, that'll be great, but it all depends on whether or not I'm brave enough to release this other one, because it's even more raw than the one that I released today. So
I like the one that you released. I really like it.
yeah. Thank you.
I just think I like the realness of stuff. You know, it's one thing to be able to get into a studio and get onto a set and do things, because everybody wants that experience. Everybody wants to put out, like, a slick video and a luxe video, that kind of thing, because it does help to raise the profile of a song. But I like the rawness. I like the realness of things. And I mean, I love that, you have, who was it that just put out a video? Oh, Janet Devlin, who I was just talking to.
Yeah.
She's from Northern Ireland, and she made a video, and it was all through social distancing.
And it was awesome.
Did you see it?
Yeah, I saw
it.
Yeah.
She went jogging, but then she had fans just submit how they're kind of doing social and how they're doing in their own spaces. And she got so much stuff. And I just think that stuff's really cool, right? I like to see people in their own element, as well as how they have connected with other people. So I think that's pretty cool. Seeing you on stage, I thought was really cool, because it gives people, especially now where people haven't had a chance to see you, they get a chance to see in the music video that, some of the stages that you were on, and I think some of the footage that, you just kind of sitting and listening and whatnot, is just, it worked well with the video, and just kind of that style, like the emotion that was in the video.
Thank you. I think
You're welcome.
We just got lucky in the fact that I had recorded these things, and happy quarantine, apparently now I can use this footage for something. It's not just going to take up space on my iPhone. So it was great to stumble upon it.
But now, whenever you go out and you're just kind of basically, just hanging about, just put the camera on and then you'll have footage.
That doesn't look narcissistic at all. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. It was awesome.
Listen, this is always fun. And I'm going to be on later on with Davey Boy tonight. And I'm going to be on with Velvet Code tomorrow. And then tomorrow night is the launch of, I don't know if anybody has noticed, but so the new Q playlist. I do. And so it's lined up with the playlist. The playlist is now called New Queer Friday. The show's called New Queer Friday. And it's going to be tomorrow night.
Sweet. And it rhymes with it sounds like Nuclear Friday, which I watched your live when you were talking about that. Very clever. Yeah. Well, I'll be tuning in.
And for anybody who's watching right now, or who's going to watch this later on, Cory Stewart, brand new single. It's called Unhappy. It is streaming on all platforms. You need to go stream it, listen to it, get it, give it to your parents, give it to your friends, give it to your family, and the random person you pass on the street.
Don't forget the grandparents.
The grandparents too, absolutely the grandparents.
That's my audience. That's my target demo.
The strange next door neighbor, maybe that's what they've been missing all their life, is this song. Introduce them to it.
Just don't get into their white van. All right, on that note, thank you so much, Kenney.
You're welcome, and we will talk soon.
All right, mwah.
Mwah!